Alright, the Dubs managed to avoid another 3-1 choke job, and the big difference in the win really came down to experience, because the Dubs just managed the game better. Both teams knew exactly what advantages to exploit, and the Rockets just couldn't find any with their double big lineup the same way they have been, because the Dubs always had the dunkers covered, so there was always a body on Adams to prevent a drop-off for Olboard. Even though the Rockets did get a good amount of tips or putbacks, most of them were off the second jump, so it wasn't really from their size, and a lot of them were coming from Amen. He was their most consistent source of offense on the night, because he was active playing out the corner or dunker in the half court, and was always looking to push pace in transition, so he was really the only one that was finishing easy ones. But that wasn't going to be enough, because the others didn't capitalize on theirs, especially Şengün, and he probably would've if he just focused more on getting a bucket than looking to the refs. It's been physical all series, so I don't know why he was expecting a call on any type of contact whenever he was bumping Dre or Loon, and he can't really use that as an excuse because the Rockets did get the benefit of the whistle on the night. They can only blame themselves for leaving 6 points on the table, and he can only blame himself for smoking too many bunnies, but that was just one example of their lack of poise, because it was showing just as much in other aspects. Whenever they needed a bucket on a dead possession, there was no one to go to, especially against the Dubs zone in the second, because it was basically in between man and zone, and they just couldn't find the open pockets to exploit whenever the Dubs loaded up the wings and middle. But even worse was them not capitalizing on that stretch early in the third, because that was their best chance to run it back, and they had back-to-back charges that possibly derailed some of that momentum. If it weren't for those, they could have potentially taken control instead of just getting within 3, but those just allowed the Dubs to extend their lead back up to 8 by the end of the quarter, and they got to shift the momentum right back in their favor entering the fourth. In every crucial moment, the Rockets just didn't show up, and that was a complete contrast compared to the other end, because it was the opposite for the Dubs. Every time they got an easy one at the rim, they finished, and every time they needed a timely bucket on a dead possession, they made one, so those adding up just allowed them to maintain their lead once they got control of the game. The Rockets had too many lapses that opened up lanes, cuts, or rolls without help at the rim, and a good amount of them even led to open looks for Buddy, because they were way too off his body in the first half, so he made him pay for cheating off or not matching up. They should have gave him the Steph treatment after his pull from damn near half court, because that's an obvious sign he was on a heater, and it could have been even worse if Steph didn't miss the looks he got. But they couldn't continue dodging him in the second half, so between him, Buddy, Jimmy, and even Pods, that shot making eventually led to their 12-0 run that led the game down the wire. It was only fitting another back-to-back turnovers was responsible for the end of the Rockets' year, because that run was just a culmination of their issues coming back around, and no amount of junk points they scored in those last 2.5 minutes could make their loss look any better. Just watch the tape.
And Van Vliet pushes Jimmy Butler.